Hey guys, it's Greg. I'm excited that we might be seeing peak wokeness because it just doesn't have the same consumer appeal anymore. In a twist that only everybody saw coming, corporate support for social justice politics is starting to wane because it's just not profitable. Woke just isn't selling anymore. Marvel movies' second weekends are terrible, usually seeing 70% drop-offs from the first weekend. This year we saw Batwoman and Naomi get canceled among so many others because the viewer numbers were just absolutely dismal. The trailer for the new Velma show backfired massively, receiving almost a 10-to-1 ratio of dislikes. Rings of Power and Wheel of Time ratings were absolutely horrible. The audiences were basically nothing by the end of each season. I can't talk about Wheel of Time too much because I fly into a nerd rage when I talk about that show. I start dropping F-bombs like commas. We're talking about the number of commas that appear in a transcript of Christopher Walken speaking.
I've never been married!
So with all these ratings being down and these projects starting to get canceled, we're seeing companies start to back away a little bit from this leftist ideology, and that reveals two big truths to us. The first one is these companies are not loyal to anybody but the shareholders and the bottom line. Any social movement that they latch onto is purely for marketing purposes. They don't actually care about you. Chris, what do you think? Yeah. I agree. If you actually thought these companies care about you and your values, please contact me so we can discuss how you might own your very own bridge. Number two is that the online slacktivist social justice warriors are either A, completely broke and can't afford to support the values that they scream about, or B, much like Washington at Valley Forge, there are actually far fewer of these people than our internet goggles would lead us to believe.
It's actually C, all of the above.
Today we're going to start exploring some of these failed projects that you already know about, but we're also going to talk about how these companies are starting to back away a little bit. And what I want you to keep in mind today is that no matter what your ideology is, if a corporation seems to back you up, they don't actually care. If you're not a leftist, you're probably cheering about all this. Just keep in mind that when the pendulum swings back to the conservative side, do not believe that these people actually give a shit about you. They're just following the money. So there was a time when companies could pander shamelessly and basically be assured of making money, so long as they were peddling representation or reframing things for the modern audience. Their products were basically a slam dunk, either in sales themselves or in just good PR. That time seems to be drawing to a close, however, as consumers, fickle beings that they are starting to get tired of the palette swaps, the strong female characters,
They're basically just men.
and the queer baiting of classic characters. We all know the economy is now in a downturn and executives are looking to tighten the belt, and that means that wasting money on these projects is no longer in the cards unless they guarantee a return. That downturn is hitting the woke folk on two fronts because consumers also are having to make hard choices, and it turns out when they don't have as much discretionary income,
Stimulus cash.
their ally status isn't quite so solid. In an all too familiar fashion, there's a much bigger market for tweets than actual product. And as companies are waking up to this fact, they're starting to cut ties with the SJW crowd. As you see this shift in corporate priorities, please let this be a reminder that these people are not loyal to you. When they seem to back you up, it's only to sell to you. You guys remember when selling pink shit for The Cure was cool? This stuff goes in waves, and it's just about money. Hey Chris, one more time, please.
These hoes ain't loyal, no they ain't.
See, he gets it. Let's take a look at some of the moves these companies are making. In huge news last week, Disney got rid of CEO Bob Chapek. Chapek has famously been a very big ally during his tenure as CEO, and he's publicly applauded all of the company's efforts aimed at expanding diversity and inclusion. It's not going to be long before those two words are right up there with like synergy as far as corporate jargon go. Like, nobody even knows what that means anymore. It's just something companies say because they think it sounds good. He also gave that really weird, gross apology when Florida was in the middle of the Parents' Rights in Education bill, or the Don't Say Gay bill, depending on where you get your news from. Chapek was basically a lightning rod on both sides of the whole woke argument. He made some serious missteps, both politically and financially, overseeing a massive slide in company stock. So the Disney thing is a little early to tell, and conservatives need to pull back on the yoke with all of their excitement. Chapek was only CEO for 2 years, and a lot of these programs that he was praising, those were already in the works under his predecessor, Bob Iger, who will be returning to the helm for 2 years and then grooming a replacement. Grooming, get it? Iger definitely is not more conservative than Chapek. If anything, a lot of reports say that he's more liberal. It seems right now that the company is trying to distance itself from a lot of these headlines by putting all of the blame on Chapek and then sending him off into the desert. Old Testament jokes. Only time will tell if the company decides to continue to plow money into the increasingly salty, politically left soil, or maybe they'll return to the simpler times of yore.
2010.
Back when they just made entertaining products and had famously delicious food in their magical theme parks. Okay, so after I filmed the video, Iger had a town hall meeting. He emphasized that he wanted to try to keep things kind of politically neutral. He wanted to back away from some of the controversy, didn't want to show any kind of disdain for the audience. So it's still clear that he likes the direction the company was heading, but even he realizes that it's not sustainable. The reputation of the company is crumbling, and it's not a profitable direction. On to the next. As Warner Brothers Disney looks to combine HBO Max and Disney Plus, they have been taking a hatchet, machete, katana, flamberge, chainsaw, any other sharp object they can find in the office to the budget. Even a box cutter. The new CEO is saying they're aiming at blockbuster type material and they're cutting all of their original content, which in recent years is becoming increasingly social justice-y. Most famously this year, they cut the almost finished Batgirl taking a complete bath. They also cut Stage 13, which was their long-running project that was designed to groom up-and-coming talent. New CEO David Zaslav seems intent on steering away from their latched trajectory, almost immediately canning CNN Plus service, and he seems to be influencing the programming and direction at CNN itself, with the channel publicly stating that they're going to be aiming for less biased news coverage. He's also rumored to be bringing back J.K. Rowling to try to recapture some of the old WB Harry Potter magic. That move in particular has been a really big slap in the face of the woke crowd, because apparently Rowling is a transphobic puppy murdering hate monger. I genuinely don't know what she did. And I actually tried to look it up and research for this video, and I can't find what she did. The only thing I can find is that she is evil and hateful, and her words, whatever the hell they were, are basically attempted murder. Lastly, Netflix made a huge number of changes in the spring, and I won't cover that too much because a lot of coverage was given to that months ago. Basically, we all know that Netflix had a very, very bad year, with their stock price dropping over 75% in just 6 months, and a lot of people increasingly blaming their woke content. A lot of people made drinking games about Netflix shows, saying you gotta drink when a character is gay, or they've been palette swapped, or whatever other pandering crap they were gonna put out. In the face of those losses, obviously the company had to take action. They had to make some pretty massive cuts. Back in the spring, a lot of people noticed that some of the first employees to get cut were especially politically active, and some of the first projects to get cut were seen as especially politically left. Look, what you need to take from all of this is that a company's gonna back up your interests so long as you're paid. One thing the progressive left has going against it right now is that there just don't seem to be enough of them to support all of these things that they want to see the companies doing. If in the future a company is supporting something that you want, you're gonna have to give them money for them to keep doing it. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. When you're being represented or backed or whatever, it's just marketing, you guys. I was at Walmart the other day and I saw a Wakanda Forever home toolkit. There was Wakanda Forever Monopoly, action figures, I mean, basically anything. None of this is to support you or your black community or any of that. It's to get your money. Now that the economic conditions don't support it, they're cutting you guys off. No matter where you fall politically, I hope this is a good reminder. These companies ain't loyal. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.